All glory to God, the great communicator, as I start the next challenge without glasses. I am beginning a 21-day self-health program today. We did the self-love program and now self-health. So it's appropriate to discuss holistic spiritual healing. The word holistic has been described in many ways. When it pertains to the subject of healing, holistic is best defined as healing the whole process, the whole person. Whole meaning a unity of the body, mind, and spirit. It is the interaction between the body and the spirit and the emotions that is the foundation for a holistic approach to spiritual healing. With so much emphasis on natural healing in our country, it is important to note that the absolute form of natural healing is holistic and spiritual. This reference is to the concept of an indwelling natural intelligence that resides within our body that can maintain good health and restore good health when the body is in need of healing. What we are talking about is an inner natural healing intelligence that has the innate wisdom to run the body and to heal it when it needs healing. Your body is an energy field. Everything is energy. We've talked about that. So your body is, and the mind is also energy, as is the emotions. In reality, your body is a whole body-mind energy field. In absolute sense, it is a field of mind energy. Mind energy is consciousness, how we think, everything that's affected us over our whole life. Thus, your body could be described as a consciousness body because of what it holds inside, or a body of consciousness. Your body of consciousness is everywhere, from the top of your head down to the length of your body to the soles of your feet. Everything about your body is consciousness. To the outer physical senses, your body appears to be made up of just these physical solids and liquids, bones and so forth, but appearance is deceiving. What you're really looking at is fields of energy, or fields of mind energy appearing as flesh, bones, cells, internal organs, blood, and so on that makes up our body. Your body consciousness is in a continual state of oneness with the universal consciousness of God. They're connected. There is no separation. That's what this says. Your body consciousness is one with the consciousness of God, and it is a continual state. It goes on. It doesn't stop. In an absolute sense, it is continual, although at times there may appear to be ill health, and it will seem that something has interfered with that continuum. If the body is in full God consciousness, oneness with God, then good health will prevail. If the body appears to be in need of healing, then healing must be the healing of consciousness, or bringing the human mind consciousness back in tune with the realization that the body consciousness is God consciousness, that it is whole, meaning healthy and one. You should think of your body as having been made by God to express the perfection of God's consciousness, knowing that God is expressing itself through us. That's why we were created and that's why we're here. And God consciousness is expressing itself through shape, form, matter, and density, which is all of what our body is made of too. You should accept, beloveds, that the natural state of your body is supposed to be good health because it is the consciousness of God, having been individualized into human form, spirit coming through our body. Your mind should accept that, and holistic spiritual healing is based on the truth, for example, that all of God, inclusive of the whole of your body, all is God. God consciousness can exist simultaneously on many different levels or manifestations, such as human consciousness and physical body form. Why? Because there is no place God is not. Think about the whole universe, and universes beyond universes, that God is there everywhere. So God can be in us, in the same, another person and another person in the cells of our bodies. How great to know that truth and open up to the consciousness of God within us. So therefore, in holistic spiritual healing, there is a chain of command in the healing process. Spirit or universal mind energy within us affects the human mind and energy level, which in turn affects the emotional energy level, which in turn affects the body. And as I've said before, we look at the three energy levels, they're outside of our body. We have the physical body, we have the auric body, we have the emotional body, and we have the mental body. And all of that can be affected. We can do energy work on the outside, and it affects us within our body as well. So the idea in holistic spiritual healing is to fill the human mind energy level with as much God energy consciousness as possible. Turn it over to God continually. The very presence of God's consciousness energy is in the human mind level, and it produces the instruction necessary to restore health or to cause healing. God's consciousness informs the human mind level energies what to do, and the human mind level energies then direct the rhythm and the motions of the body to make adjustments that are necessary for the energy factors underlying the ailing parts of the body to work. Each of the millions of cells of your body is a consciousness energy field. All the cells in your body talk with each other. They have great wisdom. They know what their job is to do. When we connect to the God consciousness and we allow those cells to communicate, then we have health. Each, therefore, is also susceptible to the influence of energy consciousness. Every time you meditate, you surface more of God's energy consciousness into your human mind energy level. The human mind level of energy consciousness then directs it to the body for health maintenance and for healing whenever necessary. So they're communicating to each other and sending notes to the cells, heal yourself. Therefore, meditation truthfully can be thought of as the ultimate holistic spiritual healing process. That is why people feel so good after they've done meditation. It's because they're making more direct contact through the mind with the natural healing intelligence of God's consciousness, connecting to the oneness. To adjust the energy of the body, that's what it does. It brings relaxation, it brings peace, rejuvenation, and revitalization to our body. Holistically, spirit rules the mind, which in turn rules the emotions and the body. Every cell of your body is a fluid of energy consciousness. God's presence is a consciousness of light. Visualizing that the cells of your body are filled with God's light energy consciousness, when you visualize it and just hold the thought of it, it affects the consciousness of the cells. It helps them raise their energy level even more. And as you visualize, make an attempt to image or imagine the cells filled with God's light energy. Anytime that you have some illness going on, that should be the first thing to do. Connect to God's consciousness and visualize the light coming through to all the cells of your body. Believing that it is happening, the energy factors of every cell, visualize them being adjusted precisely to the way that the energy should be working in your body to have energy and health. If there's a specific part of the body that is experiencing physical ill health, then you want to visualize those cells and that part of the body being healed. If you remember, when I read the healing part like I did today, it talks about all the cells that may be we're feeling some negativity, to see the light energy of God coming through that. So holistically, the whole is greater than the parts. So what we're talking about is how health is a state of consciousness. The physical body, the organs, the functions within them, is the physical expression of the life force as expressed through your consciousness. The body and the condition are the results of the beliefs that you have about them and about causation. I've talked before about how our beliefs, that's part of our consciousness, are so strong in us. If we're still carrying negative thoughts that we learn from the world about our body, that we're getting old or stuff like that, it affects our body, affects the cells of the body. And although medical science has made great advances in the last decades, medicine only works because of the beliefs that people have about it. Health is not the body alone. It is the state of consciousness. The body is an impersonal, organized field of substance. It has no consciousness of its own. It does not know when it's sick or well. It acts out what your consciousness is thinking. Your heart does not know it is a heart. Your feet do not know they are feet. Your consciousness acts by means of them. Cause is not in effect your heart, your liver, your lungs, spleen, elbows, or arms. It's a spiritual pattern behind the organs or the parts of the body. As I said, there's a spiritual idea. We've talked about this before. Every time you have a thought, you're creating an image that you can connect to. And it's the same thing when we look at our body. There's a spiritual idea of my finger, and then there's the finger. There's a spiritual idea of my body, and then there's the physical body. How do we connect to that? Because the divine idea, the spiritual idea behind any parts of your body, let's say your finger, is the divine design of perfect action. God created the energy of the soul that lives within the body. So the possibility of action that has emerged, there's a perfectibility that has emerged from the consciousness and the creative process becomes your finger or your toes or whatever part of your body. The perfect idea of your finger is a finger right now, will always be, has always been. It's an idea from God within ourselves. Its physical form is secondary because it's the idea first. It's the same for all of us. The idea of this physical body is the idea of God living through us and all the parts of it. The perfect idea of a finger or any other part is always there in the universal pattern of the body. That's why, I don't know if you've heard the story, but when people have certain limbs removed from their body, the energy of that limb is still there. Because that's the idea that was created in the first place. The physical part just has disappeared. So the mental awakening to the idea, the awareness of it, that spiritual treatment establishes, brings about a change in the cellular structure to the changes that are going on in your body. The change now is a pattern of the divine design of wholeness instead of some trauma or a pattern of belief or hurt or whatever it may be. You're beginning to dissolve it all through the prayer that you do or treatment. As I talked about last Sunday, what's the difference or the similarities between prayer and treatment? People get disturbed when illness occurs, and it's because they've not been aware of health as something innate within their body, true and active within their body. It is the concept of wholeness that people need to understand more and more. When we get into feeling illness, we feel separated from God, from health. A specific idea or disease is not always about thinking about a condition, but rather it's a discordant mental state, the thoughts that we have over a prolonged period of time that results in some sort of physical disturbance in our body. That's why Louise Hay's book, Heal Your Body, which I use a lot, and I have it here for our youth group, is important in talks because it doesn't talk about the organs, but the emotional cause or the discordant mental state of those organs and the bodies. And then she includes a meditation or an affirmation to help heal. So we're looking for the consciousness of God within the aspects of our body, not to spend time going, oh, I've got cancer, or I've got this, or I've got that. What's behind it? What's the thought? What's the emotions? To put it simply, if there are bad thoughts that you have mixed in with good in your consciousness, the bad will express along with the good, since a law of mind is always active. Think about where your thought goes first, beloveds. When you're ill and things are going on, does it go to absence or the presence of God? Is your glass half empty or half full? 8 times out of 10, your thoughts focus on absence. We get caught up in separation so easily. With such a limited or negative outlook, restriction is bound to follow in our life, meaning that we don't move, we don't feel, we don't live as much as we could within our body. The human being knows limits because that's what the ego has. The human being knows frustration. That's what the ego has. The human being knows the word no because the human being can accept all of the reasons or the rationale behind frustration, lack, loss, and limitation. Meaning, we can easily define or express to people, oh, I'm feeling lack today, or I'm feeling tired today. It's because of this, or because of that, or because of this person. That's what we spend time on. But the human being can also change that knowing and move from ignorance into spiritual awareness. And that's what this talk and purpose is about. The awareness will always manifest because of the action of the mind. It is an essential element of the creative process. You cannot escape reflection, what's showing back to you. When you are in consciousness inwardly connected to God, it's always reflected or expressed outwardly in your world of experience. How often have I said what's happening out here is a reflection of what's going on inside, how we're feeling, what we're thinking. If the pattern is beauty, if it's order, if it's harmony, if it's wholeness, then all of that takes on your life and your experience, and you begin to feel more of it. And the universal principle of life begins to work upon that pattern. But if your inner pattern is disturbance, disharmony, disorder, disease, distress, and orientation to that negative expectancy, then that begins to be reflected into our consciousness because we're spending time thinking about it and feeling it in our body. And it eventually resolves into our life experience. We box ourselves into states of experience through our consciousness. We put a box around us and say, this is limited, this is who I am. We have to see that this box in state is not who we are. The illness that comes about is not who we are. Anything that happens in our life outside is not who we are, but based upon how we think about it. What is our consciousness? That's the overriding idea over everything in our lives. I want you to remember that disease and disorder are not a necessity. Health and order are normal. That's the way it should be for all of us. We are open and free and fully receptive to the limitless action of our life and our mind, and it expresses through us all the time. We must learn to understand this truth more within us and accept it as reality. You know, we spent time talking about how God moves in mysterious ways, such as my talk last Sunday, fitting in with the adult discussion group, or my talk fits in with spiritual reading without any of us planning it. We just go, wow, this is amazing how this happens. So it is with my talks. I happened to reread one I did about 4 weeks ago, and there was a section in there that fit exactly within this talk today. So I'm including it. And it was about how your spiritual life is the most important part of your life. The outcome of everything else in your life, and your life as a whole, is more dependent on your spiritual life than on anything else. And that's what I've been talking about. Everything is dependent upon that. The reason is that the spiritual side of your life controls everything else. To the degree that you are in touch with the innermost spiritual side of your nature is to a corresponding degree how your life is going to turn out. Do you get that? Remember that. How you're thinking is going to be how your life is coming about. At the very core of who and what you are is your spiritual reality. It is that place where your soul merges and becomes one with the universal mind and spirit that created it, surrounded it with this physical form. So again, remembering that we are a soul, we are light, we are one with God, and then we're in this physical body. We need to remember that belief, that truth, that wholeness. This conscious human level of your mind is in contact to a lesser or greater degree with God's universal mind. So the good in you comes from God in you. As God that first creates your good and universal mind, meaning in the mind of God, if that consciousness is on a higher spiritual level, the energy factors within the cells of your body will be affected to either sustain good health or cause the cells to heal and restore health. The consciousness that is affecting all the cells of your body is a result of how much time you spend on your spiritual life. If you are raising your consciousness daily through prayer, meditation, and using other consciousness-raising methods, then your consciousness will have a health-maintaining and healing effect on the millions of cells of your body. This also impacts the total or whole energy field of your physical body. Therefore, beloveds, your spiritual life affects the health of your body more than any other factor. If you want to maximize your opportunity for maintaining good health or restoring it, make your spiritual life the most important priority in your life. Pray, meditate, connect to God, and change your consciousness. And finally, the most overlooked part of spiritual health is spiritual ill health. By this is meant that the soul or one's spiritual nature is suffering. So what is meant by spiritual suffering? It's when the soul or spiritual nature is not being fulfilled. Your soul and your spiritual nature took a physical body to live a particular lifetime with all the things that were going on with it. And there's a reason why you're here. If your soul is not leading the life that God gave it physical life for, then the soul and its energies are upset and out of balance. The negative energy conditions on a soul level travels into the mental level and then into the emotional level, and it affects the body's energies, causing ill health. Thus, a holistic approach to spiritual healing must take into account the spiritual health of a person in order to understand the cause of any ill health and what needs to be cured. For example, cancer is a severe and often fatal disease. That would mean that the soul or one's spiritual nature would be ill or malfunctioning energy-wise to the point where the pain of the soul becomes part of the mind and eventually, subsequently becomes physical pain. Did you understand that? That when we start with a negative thought, the energy grows and the soul feels the pain and the body feels the pain because of the oneness. And so if that's the case, the cure is obvious. What is it? First of all, find out what you should be living as your soul's purpose, and the pain and the suffering will depart. And as soon as this happens, the mind is affected, and through the mind, the emotions, and in the body. I really want to talk with you about this today because not only are we going to start the self-help program, but I want everybody in this congregation to be healed. And to do that, that means we got to connect to the consciousness of God and release the pain and the negative thoughts. And so I want to end this with an affirmation that says, I am in good spiritual health by living my spiritual life's purpose, which creates harmony in all energies of my body. Namaste.